Welcome to Ancient Mysteries. I'm your host, Ben Carter. And in today's episode, we travel to the high plains of Bolivia, where winds whip through the Andes and ancient stones lie scattered like pieces of a puzzle never solved. Among the ruins of Tiwanaku lies a site that has baffled historians, engineers, and stonemasons for generations. Massive megaliths, razor-straight cuts, and impossible angles. This is the mystery of Punku. At nearly 13,000 feet above sea level, Punku is more than just a ruin. It's an anomaly. The site is part of the larger Tiwanaku complex, located near the southeastern shores of Lake Titicaca. The Tiwanaku civilization, which flourished from approximately 500 to 1000 AD, was one of the most important pre-Columbian cultures in South America, yet much of its legacy remains elusive. Unlike the Inca, who would come centuries later, the Tiwanaku left behind no written language. Their cities were built with mathematical precision, and their spiritual life centered on powerful symbols of cosmic order, life and death. And then there's Punku. Unlike other ruins of the Andes, Punku doesn't immediately appear majestic. At first glance, it looks like a field of toppled stones, massive blocks scattered across a windswept plateau. But when examined more closely, these stones defy explanation. They are composed of granite and diorite, some of the hardest stones on Earth, materials that, even with modern tools, are notoriously difficult to carve. And yet these blocks at Punku are cut with laser-like precision. Edges are perfectly square. Holes are bored cleanly through the rock. Interlocking patterns suggest an advanced knowledge of geometry, engineering, and logistics. What makes the site even more mysterious is the lack of evidence explaining how these stones were quarried, shaped, and moved. Some weigh over 100 tons and appear to have been transported from quarries miles away. There are no surviving records, no murals, no legends passed down that explain the construction process. How did a society without the wheel, or known metal tools capable of cutting stone that hard, create one of the most sophisticated megalithic sites in the world? Even the layout of the site raises questions. Some of the blocks, shaped like puzzle pieces, are believed to be remnants of a great platform or gateway, possibly a temple. Their modular design suggests an intention to fit together with extreme precision, a kind of ancient prefabrication technique that hints at standardized construction and planning far beyond what we typically associate with the ancient Americas. The deeper you look into Punku, the more it resists explanation. It is not just a monument to a forgotten people, it is a monument to knowledge lost. It invites speculation, obsession, and awe. And it forces us to ask a simple but daunting question. What if our timeline is incomplete? In this journey, we'll explore not just the stones of Punku, but the minds and myths that surround it, from what history tells us to what science can't yet explain. At the heart of Punku's enigma lies the civilization that built it, or more accurately, the one we think built it. The Tiwanaku culture thrived in the Andes long before the rise of the Inca Empire, and its influence stretched across modern-day Bolivia, Peru, and parts of Chile. But despite its vast reach, the Tiwanaku left behind few clues about their society. There are no books, no papyrus scrolls, no detailed carvings of daily life, only ruins, fragmented pottery, and monuments half buried in time. The Tiwanaku capital was a marvel of its time. Built at an altitude where modern construction becomes physically demanding, the city had canals, temples, and agricultural systems that maximized the sparse Andean environment. At its center stood the Akapana Pyramid and Kalasasaya, a walled temple aligned to the solstices, showing that their understanding of astronomy was both complex and central to their culture. They created raised fields for agriculture, canal systems for irrigation, and statues carved with figures that remain difficult to decipher. It was a society of engineers, astronomers, and deeply spiritual people. But Punku doesn't quite fit the rest of the Tiwanaku story. The construction techniques appear vastly more advanced than other Tiwanaku structures. The stones are cut with such accuracy that even modern stonemasons are baffled. Some blocks appear to have been machined, yet there's no evidence the Tiwanaku had any tools capable of producing such results. Compounding the mystery, Punku lacks the symbolic iconography found in other parts of the Tiwanaku complex. The site is more geometric, more mechanical in its appearance and less decorative. It feels different. And then there's the matter of scale. The largest blocks at Punku weigh well over 100 tons and were likely transported from quarries at least 10 miles away, some say even farther. There are no roads connecting the quarry to the site. There are no wheeled carts, no draft animals native to the region capable of pulling that kind of weight. To move such immense stones without modern technology would be a Herculean effort, requiring coordination, manpower, and an understanding of physics that seems out of place for the era. Radiocarbon dating of organic material found at the site suggests that Punku was built around 500 to 600 AD. But the stones themselves cannot be dated directly. And so some theorists argue that the construction may have occurred much earlier, perhaps thousands of years before the Tiwanaku rose to prominence. Could Punku have been built by an even older culture, one that vanished without a trace? That's the great puzzle. The Tiwanaku may have inherited the site, used it, revered it, but did they build it? The lack of written language forces archaeologists to work backwards from stone to meaning, from ruins to narrative. And with Punku, the story the stones are telling is one that doesn't align with our current understanding of ancient technology. It suggests either a lost chapter of human history, or that we have underestimated the capabilities of those who came before us. To grasp the depth of the mystery surrounding Punku, one must examine the stones themselves, monuments not just to architecture, but to a level of precision that feels shockingly modern. Scattered across the plateau are blocks of andesite and red sandstone, some over 20 feet long and weighing dozens of tons. These are not naturally occurring formations. They were cut, shaped, transported and placed with intention, and their craftsmanship defies easy explanation. Among the most iconic features are the H-shaped blocks, identical in form, measured with near-perfect symmetry. Each side is carved with recesses, grooves and channels that suggest they were designed to interlock with other stones like a three-dimensional puzzle. Many of the cuts are so sharp, so flawlessly aligned, that engineers have marvelled at their straightness, often comparing them to machine-made parts. In modern construction, achieving such flat surfaces and 90-degree angles on hard stone requires diamond-tipped tools or high-powered saws. Yet these ancient builders appear to have done it with tools made of bronze or stone, neither of which are capable of cutting through andesite with any efficiency. How did they manage it? That remains one of the core puzzles of Punku. Some blocks feature precisely drilled holes, each uniform in depth and diameter. In some, small channels run parallel, as if designed to carry fluid or hold fastenings. Even by modern standards, these details would require tools calibrated to find tolerances, tools we have no evidence of in the archaeological record. One striking example is a block with a series of evenly spaced 6mm holes, each with consistent depth and spacing, as if produced by a mechanical drill. Engineers who've studied these details have admitted they'd be hard-pressed to reproduce such work without modern measuring equipment. And yet, there the stones sit, in the middle of a high-altitude plateau, exposed to centuries of wind, rain and erosion, and still almost impossibly precise. The layout of the site suggests a grand design. Some researchers propose that the interlocking blocks formed a large platform or temple, possibly with a roof. Others believe it was a kind of ceremonial hub or even a sophisticated engineering complex. The modularity of the stones hints at pre-planned construction, standardized units mass-produced and assembled on site. If true, this would mean the builders understood not only how to work with difficult materials, but how to create repeatable systems akin to ancient prefabrication. Yet no cranes, no pulleys, no wheels, no written plans have ever been found. The technical sophistication is clear, but the methods remain entirely speculative. What adds to the mystery is the damage. Many of the stones are broken, as if shattered by immense force. Some lie twisted, tossed aside, misaligned from their intended positions. Was it an earthquake that fractured the structure? Or something else, an invasion, a cataclysm, or even an event now lost to myth? With every measurement, every scanned angle, Punku seems to challenge not just our understanding of ancient craftsmanship, but the very timeline we've constructed to explain human technological evolution. It stands silent and unyielding, as if daring us to decipher its purpose and its builders. Archaeologists and engineers alike have spent decades trying to decode the riddle of Puma Punku. While some dismiss its enigma as exaggerated by popular media, others continue to probe its secrets, hoping that modern science might finally reveal the methods behind its extraordinary construction. Over the years, several key discoveries and experiments have added intriguing, if inconclusive, pieces to the puzzle. One of the more grounded theories comes from studies of ancient stoneworking techniques. Experimental archaeologists have demonstrated that andesite can, in theory, be shaped using long periods of abrasion with sand, water, and harder stones like quartz. This method, while technically possible, is brutally inefficient. It requires thousands of hours of labor just to achieve small adjustments, let alone produce the kind of crisp, complex geometry found in the Puma Punku blocks. The level of consistency and repetition found among the H blocks casts doubt on this technique being the sole method used. Then there's the mystery of transportation. Some of the stones at the site were quarried over 10 miles away, and a few, including the largest sandstone blocks, are believed to have originated from across Lake Titicaca, nearly 50 miles distant. Scholars have proposed that the stones could have been dragged on sledges over log rollers, floated on reed boats, or hauled by massive teams of workers. But again, these theories often fall short when scrutinized under the weight of the actual logistics. The terrain is unforgiving. The elevation is extreme. The resources required would have been immense, and no tools or infrastructure associated with such a feat have been found at or near the site. Some researchers have also turned to digital modeling to understand how the blocks might have been assembled. When scanned in 3 dimensions, the H blocks show signs of having been manufactured with an astonishing degree of standardization. Each has a consistent set of dimensions, as if created from a template. This level of uniformity implies a planning and fabrication system well beyond trial and error. But without any surviving blueprints, molds, or tools, this theory remains speculative, impressive but unverified. Even more compelling is the apparent mathematical and astronomical knowledge embedded in the site. Some blocks align with cardinal directions. Others mirror solstice sunrises or lunar cycles, though erosion and damage over time make precise conclusions difficult. If these alignments were intentional, they suggest that Puma Punku wasn't just an architectural marvel. It may have also served as a sacred calendar, or even an observatory encoded in stone. Despite years of investigation, what scholars have consistently found is less of a solution and more of a pattern. Puma Punku reveals hints of a sophisticated system of measurement, design, and logistics, but offers no roadmap to its origin. Every avenue of research opens new questions. If the Tiwanaku built it, how did they acquire such advanced knowledge? If they inherited it, from whom? Archaeology thrives on fragments, on pottery shards, broken tools, scattered bones, but Puma Punku feels different. It's not just a ruin, but a challenge, a monument to something that once was, and something we still can't explain. Within academic circles, Puma Punku sits at the edge of debate, neither fully embraced as a conventional archaeological site, nor entirely dismissed as an overhyped anomaly. Scholars, engineers, and historians continue to dissect the site's features, and while there is a general consensus that the Tiwanaku culture played a significant role in its construction or usage, how they accomplished such feats remains unsettled. Some researchers, like archaeologist Alexei Vranic, have argued that the apparent precision of the stones is often exaggerated in photographs and documentaries. He contends that weathering and partial reconstructions create the illusion of machine-like perfection. Using 3D photogrammetry, Vranic and his team created digital models of the scattered blocks, attempting to reassemble them virtually to better understand the original structure. The results were promising, showing that the H blocks likely formed part of a large platform or ceremonial space. But even Vranic admitted, the precision of the blocks, while perhaps not as robotic as often claimed, still demanded a remarkable level of skill. Yet many scholars remain skeptical of any claim that Puma Punku required technology beyond what was available at the time. They point to other examples of impressive stonework across the world, from the pyramids of Egypt to the intricate masonry of Machu Picchu, as evidence that ancient cultures were more than capable of extraordinary feats, using simple tools, manpower, and ingenuity. Still, Puma Punku resists easy comparisons. Its architecture is different, more geometric, more modular. It lacks the symbolic flourishes of Incan or Egyptian design, and instead emphasizes clean lines, abstract shapes, and a near-mechanical order. It feels less like a sacred temple, and more like a machine, one whose purpose we've long forgotten. Another ongoing debate surrounds the dating of the site. Radiocarbon dating of organic materials found nearby places significant activity at Puma Punku around 500 to 600 AD. Yet critics argue that this only dates the presence of people, not the stones themselves. Since the blocks cannot be dated directly, it's possible they were carved and moved earlier, then later adopted or repurposed by the Tiwanaku. Complicating matters is the absence of transitional tools or evidence. If the Tiwanaku developed the techniques required for Puma Punku, there should be a trail. Earlier experiments, failed attempts, crude versions of similar construction. But no such stepping stones have been uncovered. The sophistication appears fully formed, like a sudden leap in capability with no developmental path. That abruptness is what continues to bother scholars. In science and engineering, progress tends to evolve gradually. Yet here, in the middle of the Andes, stands evidence of a potential leap, an architectural expression of knowledge that seems to have appeared and then vanished, without precedent or successor. For every academic explanation, there's a lingering void, an unanswered how or an unexplored why. Puma Punku remains perched on that boundary between the explainable and the extraordinary, a site that invites scrutiny, speculation, and for many, a quiet sense of awe. Outside the realm of traditional archaeology, Puma Punku has become a lightning rod for alternative theories, those that challenge not just the site's construction, but the very narrative of human history. Among fringe researchers, it's not merely a monument, it's a smoking gun, evidence of forgotten civilizations, advanced technology, or even extraterrestrial intervention. Perhaps the most widely circulated theory is that Puma Punku was not built by the Tiwanaku at all, but by an unknown advanced culture that predates them by thousands of years. Proponents of this idea often link Puma Punku with the mythical lost continent of Atlantis, Mu, or even a pre-flood civilization erased from history. In their view, the Tiwanaku were caretakers, not creators, descendants of survivors who inherited remnants of superior knowledge from a fallen age. One of the more radical interpretations comes from ancient astronaut theorists. They argue that the sharp geometry, the precision-drilled holes, and the scale of the blocks indicate technological assistance far beyond Bronze Age capabilities. If you believe these theories, Puma Punku wasn't built by humans, but for humans, under the guidance of non-human intelligences. In their eyes, the site is a relic of contact, a workshop of the gods, and the strange layout and modular blocks may have served as components in a larger system, perhaps energetic, mechanical, or even symbolic in ways we still can't perceive. Then there's the idea that the stones were not cut at all, but poured. Some theorists suggest that what appears to be stonework could, in fact, be a form of ancient geopolymer concrete, cast in molds using a lost formula. They point to the sharp corners, uniform shapes, and clean holes as evidence of liquid stone being shaped like clay, rather than carved with chisels. While mainstream geologists generally agree the blocks are natural andesite and sandstone, the theory continues to attract attention. After all, if the ancients had mastered a form of synthetic stone, that would radically shift our understanding of pre-Columbian science and technology. Fringe interpretations often extend to the site's destruction as well. Some claim that Puma Punku was deliberately dismantled, either by invaders seeking to erase its power or by a cataclysmic event. They cite local legends of thunder gods and upheaval and point to the scattered, fragmented stones as signs of sudden, violent ruin, possibly even by technologies no longer known to us. These theories are easy to dismiss as fantasy, and in many cases they are speculative at best. But what makes Puma Punku fertile ground for such ideas is the sheer lack of answers. In the absence of definitive explanations, mystery becomes a magnet for the human imagination. And the more that remains unexplained, the deeper the cuts, the sharper the angles, the more impossible the engineering, the more open the door becomes to alternative thought. For believers, Puma Punku is not a question of how, but of what we've forgotten. It is a rupture in the official timeline, a reminder that perhaps the past is not as primitive or as well understood as we'd like to believe. When we step back from the chiseled stones, the angular precision, and the technological riddles of Puma Punku, something larger begins to emerge, something that transcends engineering or archaeology. This place, whether built by hands we understand or by those lost to time, carries symbolic weight. It challenges our assumptions about progress, about knowledge, and about the fragility of memory across centuries. In many ways, Puma Punku represents a mirror of our limitations. It sits in silence atop the Bolivian plateau, untouched by the noise of modern civilization, but speaking volumes through its mystery. The way its stones lie broken and scattered, as if once part of a great harmony now shattered, evokes the image of a forgotten language, a message half written, half erased, a testament to something once whole. From a symbolic standpoint, the site could be interpreted as a representation of lost order, the fallen architecture of a knowledge system that no longer exists. The modular blocks, designed to fit together perfectly, now lie apart, suggesting a break between intention and understanding, between builder and beholder. If Puma Punku once served as a sacred structure, perhaps a cosmic map or a spiritual gateway, then its current state reflects the disruption of that sacred geometry. And in that disarray, we find the deeper human story, the impermanence of greatness, the erosion of wisdom, the drift of civilizations from clarity into myth. There's also the broader implication of intellectual humility. Puma Punku humbles us. It reminds us that technological superiority is not a straight line, that even in the modern world, where we pride ourselves on progress, there are places that seem to know something we don't, something that forces us to rethink not only when we became advanced, but what advancement truly means. Is it tools? Is it knowledge? Or is it the wisdom to preserve and understand what we build? And then there is the question of legacy. If Puma Punku was in fact a vestige of some forgotten civilization, its ruins become a warning. How much of our own knowledge would remain recognizable if we vanished tomorrow? How many of our structures, devices, or data would be interpretable in 1,000 years if found out of context, shattered and stripped of meaning? Puma Punku may be a casualty of time, but it is also a monument to continuity, to the endurance of curiosity, the drive to understand, and the connection between past and present through shared awe. It is not just a ruin, it is an echo, one that resonates across cultures, disciplines, and generations. Ultimately, its power may not lie in the certainty of its origin, but in its ability to provoke questions we haven't yet dared to ask. It urges us to look deeper, beyond stone, beyond science, and to confront the vastness of what we do not know. In doing so, Puma Punku doesn't just challenge history, it becomes history's challenge to us. As we reach the end of our journey through the windswept ruins of Puma Punku, one thing becomes unmistakably clear. The site is not just a relic of the past, it's a living enigma. An open question posed by ancient hands to a modern world that still can't answer it. We began with stones carved, transported, and placed in ways that defy the limitations we assign to the civilizations of that era. We followed the trail of history back to the Tiwanaku, a people of profound spiritual and astronomical awareness, who may have built or inherited this baffling structure. We examined the evidence, the modular blocks, the drill-like holes, the geometry that rivals modern tools, and the absence of a clear method or motive behind it all. We considered the scholars, who wrestle with dating and construction theories, working tirelessly to piece together the puzzle with the fragments they have. And we didn't shy away from the fringe thinkers, who offer possibilities that lie outside the comfort zone of mainstream archaeology, possibilities involving lost civilizations, advanced ancient science, or even visitors from beyond the stars. Through all of it, one thread remained constant. We don't know. But perhaps that's what gives Puma Punku its enduring power. It reminds us that mystery is not something to be feared or solved in haste, but something to sit with, to contemplate. In a world obsessed with answers, this site offers something rare and precious, a question that refuses to die. Puma Punku is a boundary marker, not just in geography, but in understanding. It stands between the known and the unknown, between what we can measure and what we can feel. For some, it's a masterpiece of forgotten stonework. For others, it's a message in granite from a time before time. And for all of us, it's a humbling reminder that the past holds secrets we've only just begun to uncover. Whether it was a temple, a platform, a machine, or something we haven't yet imagined, Puma Punku endures. Not because we understand it, but because we don't. Thanks for listening. I'm your host, Ben Carter, and this has been another episode of Ancient Mysteries. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you would like to support the show, subscribe to Ancient Mysteries on Spotify. The link is in the description. Subscribe now.